Modern historians have known for many years that it was the Christians who were largely responsible for plunging the world into the Dark Ages. Many of the Christian saints and historical greats were ignorant, evil, homicidal maniacs, in exactly the same mold as the Pol Pot regime in Cambodia, but unfortunately on a gigantic scale and totally successful. Every man, woman and child who dared to challenge any aspect of the new state religion of the Roman Empire was brutally dealt with. Every library and college of learning was closed and every non-Christian book destroyed, until eventually the Christian priests were the only people able to read and write. Not even kings had this privilege. In the land of the ignorant, the man who can read and write is king. In a television series called The Borgias, Pope Alexander VI, 1492–1503, millions of people were shocked as they watched this terrible story unfold before their eyes. So many imagined the popes of old to be similar to the kind men that have held office in recent years. If only this were so. Many were much worse than Alexander VI. Pope Innocent III, 1198–1216, and many others were responsible for the most appalling crimes. These evil men ruled the known world as dictators with the same power as any Roman emperor. When Rome fell to the Christian Visigoths, in 410 AD, they did not destroy any churches. They fell at the feet of Pope Innocent I, worshipping him as God's representative on earth. The light of knowledge was extinguished from Christendom. Superstition took the place of the pursuit of knowledge. Ignorance and corruption reigned supreme for 1,000 years. The Age of Enlightenment, or Age of Reason, was a cultural movement of intellectuals beginning in late 17th century Europe emphasizing reason and individualism rather than tradition. It was sparked by philosophers Francis Bacon, Baruch Spinoza, John Locke, Pierre Bell, Voltaire, Francis Hutcheson, David Hume and physicist Isaac Newton. Ruling princes often endorsed and fostered these figures and even attempted to apply their ideas of government in what was known as enlightened absolutism. The scientific revolution is closely tied to the Enlightenment, as its discoveries overturned many traditional concepts and introduced new perspectives on nature and man's place within it. Its purpose was to reform society using reason, to challenge ideas grounded in tradition and faith, and to advance knowledge through the scientific method. It promoted scientific thought, skepticism, and intellectual interchange. The Enlightenment was a revolution in human thought. This new way of thinking was that rational thought begins with clearly stated principles, uses correct logic to arrive at conclusions, tests the conclusions against evidence, and then revises the principles in the light of the evidence. This was the origin of modern science as distinguished from ancient, depending on observation, experiment, and mathematical discussion, instead of mere speculation, which was a consequence of the Macedonian campaigns, which brought Asia and Europe into contact. The well-known history of Christianity demonstrates its advance to the attainment of imperial power, the transformation it underwent by its incorporation with paganism, the existing religion of the Roman Empire. A clear conception of its incompatibility with science caused it to suppress forcibly the schools of Alexandria. It was constrained to this by the political necessities of its position. The first open struggle was the First or Southern Reformation. The point in dispute had respect to the nature of God. It involved the rise of Mohammedanism. Its result was, that much of Asia and Africa, with the historic cities Jerusalem, Alexandria, and Carthage, were wrenched from Christendom, and the doctrine of the unity of God established in the larger portion of what had been the Roman Empire. This political event was followed by the restoration of science, the establishment of colleges, schools, libraries, throughout the dominions of the Arabians. In addition, through the cultivation of astronomy, geography, and other sciences, correct views had been gained as to the position and relations of the earth, and as to the structure of the world, and since religion, resting itself on what was assumed to be the proper interpretation of the scriptures, insisted that the earth is the central and most important part of the universe, conflict again broke out. In this Galileo led the way on the part of science. Its issue was the overthrow of the Church on the question in dispute. Subsequently, a subordinate controversy arose respecting the age of the Earth, the Church insisting that it is only about 6,000 years old. In this the Church was again overthrown. The age of the Earth is 4.54 billion plus or minus 0.05 billion years. This age is based on evidence from radiometric age dating of meteorite material and is consistent with the ages of the oldest known terrestrial and lunar samples. Following the scientific revolution and the development of radiometric age dating, measurements of lead in uranium-rich minerals showed that some were in excess of a billion years old. The oldest such minerals analyzed to date, small crystals of zircon from the Jack Hills of Western Australia, are at least 4.404 billion years old. Comparing the mass and luminosity of the Sun to those of other stars, it appears that the solar system cannot be much older than those rocks. Calcium-aluminum-rich inclusions, the oldest known solid constituents within meteorites that are formed within the solar system, are 4.567 billion years old, giving an age for the solar system and an upper limit for the age of Earth. It is hypothesized that the accretion of Earth began soon after the formation of the calcium-aluminum-rich inclusions and the meteorites. Because the exact amount of time this accretion process took is not yet known, and the predictions from different accretion models range from a few millions up to about 100 million years, the exact age of Earth is difficult to determine. It is also difficult to determine the exact age of the oldest rocks on Earth, exposed at the surface, as they are aggregates of minerals of possibly different ages. In physical cosmology, the age of the universe is the time elapsed since the Big Bang. The best measurement of the age of the universe is 13.798 plus or minus 0.037 billion years within the Lambda-CDM concordance model. The uncertainty of 37 million years has been obtained by the agreement of a number of scientific research projects, such as microwave background radiation measurements by the Planck satellite, the Wilkinson microwave anisotropy probe and other probes. Measurements of the cosmic background radiation give the cooling time of the universe since the Big Bang, and measurements of the expansion rate of the universe can be used to calculate its approximate age by extrapolating backwards in time.